U.S. is pivoting its focus towards Indo-Pacific. Washington has asked their allies in the region to make their position clear on what they would do in case of a possible Chinese invasion of Taiwan. U.S. Undersecretary of Defense for Policy Elbridge Colby has reportedly sought the stand of its allies on the issue during recent talks with defense officials of Japan and Australia. According to the Financial Times, the request from the United States caught Tokyo and Canberra off guard, as the United States itself does not offer a guarantee to defend Taiwan. Canberra and Tokyo are taking a cautious path. Australia has made it clear that it will not commit its troops in advance. Australia's defense industry minister has said that the decision will be made by the government of the time. Japan, on the other hand, has dodged the issue by saying that it is difficult to answer such a hypothetical question. This comes after Colby, in a post on X, said, and I quote, "The Department of Defense is focused on implementing the President's America First agenda of restoring deterrence and achieving peace through strength, which includes by urging allies to step up their defense spending and other efforts related to our collective defense. Security of Taiwan is crucial for the United States as the country sits at the heart of global supply chains. Economically, it is a backbone of global chip supply and a home of the world's largest and most advanced chip maker, the TSMC. Taiwan produces about 90% of the world's most advanced semiconductors, a critical component that is widely considered as a defining technology of the 21st century. While the U.S. does not officially recognize Taiwan as a sovereign nation, it supports Taiwan's ability to defend itself. The U.S. is Taiwan's most important arms supplier, despite a lack of formal diplomatic ties. Taiwan has U.S. supplied F-16 fighter jets, multiple rocket and missile systems, as well as Reaper drones. Taiwan has already deployed HIMARS rocket systems. Taiwan's deployment of high mobility artillery rocket system has captured the attention of military analysts around the globe. The U.S. also maintains a significant military presence in the region. Apart from military bases in South Korea and Japan, it has its own base in the Pacific Ocean called Guam. Taiwan has faced increased military pressure from China in recent time, including several rounds of war games, as Beijing seeks to assert its sovereign claims over the island. Taiwan rejects China's assertion of sovereignty. And joining us from Washington, D.C. is Peter Kuznick, who's a professor of history and director of the Nuclear Studies Institute at American University. Mr. Kuznick, good to see you. Why do you think Australia and Japan are wary of America's request?
U.S. strategy, if there's going to be a war with China over Taiwan, is to have Japanese, Australian, South Korean troops and ships go in there first because they're closer and because they've been building up their militaries. So by the time the U.S. got into the war, the U.S. officials would want their allies in there before. Mm-hmm. However, the U.S. position is still one of strategic ambiguity. The U.S. has not committed officially to coming to Taiwan's defense. And so even though Biden 4 times said that the U.S. would deploy troops if Taiwan was invaded, he had to walk it back all 4 times. So America's allies reason, if the United States is not officially committing to defending Taiwan, then why should they stick their necks out to do so and simply antagonize and alienate China unnecessarily?
Mm-hmm. Mr. Kuznick, let's analyze this statement by Japan, because Japan says that it is difficult to answer such a hypothetical question, and the question here in question is that the Undersecretary of Defense did say that the Department of Defense is focused on implementing the President's America First agenda of restoring deterrence and achieving peace through strength, which includes by urging allies to step up their defense spending and other efforts related to our collective defense. Why does Japan have a problem with that statement?
Japan has already doubled its military spending, but the Japanese public does not like this. There's been an effort to scare them based on the China threat to increase military spending. Ishiba, before he became prime minister, called not only for an Asian NATO, but for Japan to have access to its own nuclear weapons. We're coming upon the 80th anniversary of the U.S. atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Anti-nuclear sentiment in Japan still runs very strong. So even though Japan has committed itself to coming to the U.S. defense in the Pacific, going against Article 9 of its own constitution, the Japanese public is still very wary. And Ishiba does not have majority support for these kind of aggressive moves. The other thing is that everybody who's increasing their military spending is doing so by cutting social programs, cutting education, cutting housing, cutting food programs, other necessary programs for poor and working people. And so there's a resistance to that across the planet. The U.S. is demanding not only that its allies go to 3.5% of GDP spending on their militaries, but up to 5%. Trump has even called for Taiwan to increase its military spending to 10% of its GDP. Many people in those countries consider this to be madness in terms of the values and priorities. Why don't we talk about diplomacy instead of beefing up the militaries around the planet? That's much more the sentiment that prevails globally. But that is not what Trump is pushing. And the United States does not spend 3.5% of GDP on its military, but it's demanding that its allies spend 5%, and in the case of Taiwan, even more. And on top of that, the United States has recently said South Korea should increase its money that it gives to the United States. The protection money, it says, that the United States spends for keeping 28,500 U.S. troops in South Korea. Okay. So there's a lot of pushback against Trump's militarization of the Pacific.
Mr. Peter Kuznick, good to see you. Thank you very much for talking to us today. We'll have to leave it there.
My pleasure.